please join me in welcoming Mr. Evans Munyuki, ex-group CDO of Emirates NBD and CEO of Problem X. Evans will be discussing how banks must completely retool their business strategy and change their internal culture because the future of banking will be dominated by data and digital channels. Welcome, Evans.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Alexandria. Okay, how's everybody doing? I'm counting my steps. So I try to walk 10,000 steps per day because I've heard that it's really, really good to do a lot of walking. It's good for you, it's good for your heart, it's good for your body. So that's why I'm using a handheld microphone, because I don't want to stand for the next 15 minutes. I'd like to walk a little bit. So it's really good to be here. My name is Evans Munyuki. I've had the opportunity to work in various organizations which have done some very interesting things when it comes to digital transformation, whether it's the time I spent in IBM, the time I spent in the Kelly Group, the time I spent at ABSA in South Africa. And I've also worked for a fintech, a listed fintech, and I've worked for Emirates NBD as the Group Chief Digital Officer at Emirates NBD. And during that time, we did a lot of work, specifically focusing on data, focusing on customer experience, focusing on really driving digital to get good results for customers. And during that time, I did notice that we had a certain need, which was an unmet need. And you've heard people talk today about financial inclusion. You've heard people talk about women. You've heard people talk about agriculture. And people have talked about specifically SMEs. And I saw there was a need specifically in the UAE, specifically in Dubai and in the UAE Emirates, where SMEs are completely underserved. In fact, some banks, including the bank I was working for at the time, had a certain segment where they just said, it's too complicated. There's so many expats in the country. The flight risk is high when you look at lending and so on. And they just exited the whole SME kind of certain segments of that space. And so we decided, hey, let's go after the small businesses. They represent more than 80% of the economy in terms of SMEs. And so I looked at some potential partnerships with fintechs, and we saw that if we tried to kind of band-aid things together, it would be a bit of a clunky experience. So we decided, hey, let's just go out and build a digital business bank, specifically which targets SMEs and targets small businesses. So we called it E20, and we built it and we launched it in 2019, specifically focusing on opening a bank account for SMEs in minutes. And that's one of the things that we did. Another thing that we did is we saw a need around millennials and lifestyle banking for millennials. And through the leadership of my colleague, Mr. Jayesh Patel, we went out and we built Live, which is a digital lifestyle bank, which became, at that time, the fastest acquiring bank in the UAE, getting customers on board. So these are some examples of things that we did specifically within Emirates NBD, both digitizing the mother bank and launching two distinct brands of digital banks, which went out after two specific segments. Now, even though Live was for millennials, everybody wanted to get onto it because it was so easy to open an account, and we started adding more and more products to it. And with E20, we started off with a focus on the Dubai Economic Department licensed businesses, because the UAE is very fragmented when it comes to the number of business registries that are in the country. So what we did is we focused on those first, and we moved forward. Now, when you look at active online banking users worldwide, in 2020, there were about 1.9 billion active online banking users worldwide, and that's projected to grow by 2024 to 2.55 billion. And really interesting fact, specifically for this conference that we're in, is the market size of digital banks worldwide as of 2021 was at 47.4 billion US dollars, which is a high number. But what's really interesting is when you take a look at what the projections are by 2030, they're expected to soar to 2.05 trillion US dollars by 2030, which shows that there is a big growth, and the market size of digital banking as well expected to grow. I think it's really interesting to look at Nubank out of Brazil. They're at the top of the pack for digital banks, both in terms of their valuation and in terms of their number of users. They had, as of 2021, 48.1 million users. Neobank, no branches, 48.1 million users. And they were in the top 3 in terms of valuation, at 45 billion in valuation, with Revolut coming next with about 18 million users, with a valuation of 33 billion, and Chime with a valuation of 25 billion. Now, what makes Nubank quite interesting is, unlike Revolut, which has 18 million users across multiple countries, Nubank has basically achieved 48 million users, basically with a massive presence in Brazil, a little bit in Colombia and one other country, but they basically haven't done massive geographical expansion. So there are some lessons that I thought we can learn from both our execution in Emirates NBD, at E20, and also at Live, and banks like Nubank, where we can draw some lessons. First of all, there is a growing demand for digital banks and digital banking services worldwide, including Pakistan, right? Especially with the new 5 licenses that have just been issued. And specifically for you personally, digital banking is a great base from which to build your career. Because quite honestly, you are either digital or you are dead. As a bank, you are either digital or you're dead. You cannot compete with organizations whose cost-to-income ratios are south of 30% and 28% unless you go digital. You have to go digital or else you're dead. Now, when we say digital bank, don't just think of a traditional retail bank. Open your mind up to the types of possibilities. In fact, we've heard some speakers, in fact, Nadeem spoke this morning, and based on what he spoke about, it's interesting to see what types of banks are out there. So you've got banks like Nubank, which represent digital retail banks, but look at that. On their website, they say banking for you, and banking for your business. So they're looking at both digital retail banking, but also looking at digital SME banking and digital business banking, which is important to think about. Because many times when people hear the words digital banking, the instinctive thought is a traditional retail bank just put onto digital. But there's so many niches that we can go after. Look at companies like Coconut, which brands and tags itself as an accounting and tax app, which goes out and provides data and insights and value for organizations, specifically for small businesses. I've talked about Live, which is a digital lifestyle bank. Look at companies like Tide out of the UK, and they specifically say, no, we are not a bank. We are a business financial platform and a leading provider of digital business banking services in the UK. But they allow you to open bank accounts, and they work with a bank at the back, and they make things happen. Companies like Expense. looking at what Expense is doing. They're now live in Bahrain, and I believe that they also are starting to have representation here in Pakistan as well. E20 I've talked about. Alpian, interesting bank, digital business bank specifically for private banking. And they're just now about to launch. So I've shown you examples of digital retail banks, digital business banks, digital SME banks, digital lifestyle banks, digital private banks, so many niches that are possible. What about digital remittance banks? For example, TransferWise, which now became Wise. So what do we learn as we look at this? I think one key lesson is very important to capture. Banking as a service versus banking as a platform. And I think this is important to note because in this world we're in, we all talk about super apps. And I'll mention a little bit about super apps in just a minute. But let's talk about banking as a service. So what is banking as a service? I think the best way to explain what banking as a service is to actually use an example. So I'm going to use Emirates Airlines, since I like them so much. They give great service. Think of Emirates Airlines. They pay a fee to a banking as a service provider. Now that provider is Deutsche Bank. And what Deutsche Bank does is, because they're so smart, like you guys, they're so smart that they've made their architecture API ready. They've made it easy for externals to connect with their internal world. So what they do is they say, we are gonna grant you access to our APIs, Emirates Airlines, for a fee. And then Emirates Airlines takes those APIs and they start offering financial products on their websites and their apps. So the customer is Emirates Airlines customers. They're able to enjoy banking services, but Emirates Airlines did not become a bank. They're still an airline, but using APIs, they are bringing banking services from a bank into their customer base. That's banking as a service. So what's banking as a platform? As you think about banking as a platform, we start on the left, right? So on the left, you have your customer base, whether they're traditional customers, Gen X customers, millennials, etc. They come to your app because you guys are smart. It's your app. But when they get there, they don't only get your banking services, they also get services from fintechs. They get services from other organizations. But why is this possible? It's possible because you've made modern your architecture, you've made modern your ways of work, so your loans could come from Upstart, payments from Venmo, you have investing and trading from Acorns, wealth management from other companies. Basically, you are becoming an ecosystems player. In other words, a super app. Right? So banking as a platform starts taking us towards the super app space. And I believe that all the serious organizations, they will become super apps. You have to. You have to. Your customer comes to you and says, I want the jackets that you're selling. Oh, by the way, I also want a glass of water. Can I buy it from you? Are you going to say no? You won't say no. You'll say, yes, I'll do it for you for a fee. And you have revenue streams. So that's what banking as a platform is, which is why it's an important thing to be thinking about. So as you think about digital banking, banking as a service, very important, and banking as a platform, very important. So key learnings, focus on solving real problems for customers. As you think about the services that you provide within the digital bank, do they resonate with the customers? Are there things that customers want that you don't have, that you should provide through partnerships? Be design-led, right? So being design-led is all about thinking about the world, not from the inside out, but thinking about the world from the outside in, and thinking about how your customers consume. Now, remember that in banking, we all loved our relationship managers. We said, hey, my relationship manager is so-and-so, and she knows me, or he knows me. When I go to see him or her, they understand me, which is different from the digital world, right? Where people often say, even if you're banking with a certain bank and you want to apply for a product, they treat you like a complete stranger. And they start asking you questions all over again. What's your name? What's your ID number? What's your address? You're my bank, you should know these things. So how do you become design-led so that the digital experience is as amazing as the in-person experience, both from a user interface perspective, UI, from a user experience perspective, UX, from a customer experience perspective, be design-led. Be lean in your processes. Don't show a beautiful user interface. Somebody clicks on the button on the digital bank, and then the clunky old banking processes start getting executed in the back. Be agile in your execution. Do things, make changes, show them to customers, get customer feedback, update them, and be innovative in your use of technology. Understand the tech architecture, how things are done, and how you can leverage new tech to deliver great services. But importantly, as was mentioned this morning, don't go the journey alone. Short-circuit years of work through fintech partnerships. Now, they could be fintech partnerships. They could be partnerships with some of the tech colleagues that we have outside. The whole point is, in collaboration, there is the ability to have speed to market. Think ecosystems. So as you build the digital bank, as you make your bank digital, as you partner with people that want to make their banks digital, ecosystems are important. And marketplaces become an obvious thing that follows as a result of having these ecosystem plays that are readily available. And the new frontier, and watch this, the new frontier in financial services is niche. It's niche. And what niche means is, if I come to the bank, to your bank, and I am a man, I want to feel like you are the bank for men. If I come to your bank and I'm a woman, I want to feel like you are the bank for women. If I come to your bank and I'm a pregnant woman, I want to feel like you are the bank for pregnant women. If I come to your bank and I'm an SME, I want to feel like you're the bank for SMEs, etc., etc. Become niche. But you can't go and launch 20 different unique digital banks, but you can use data and you can use AI to provide a niche personalized service. Personally, I hate chatbots. I don't like them. The customer experience through chatbots, I don't enjoy them. I'm a digital person, but I don't like them. But for some reason, I love ChatGPT. It's interesting, because it's like it knows me. I start a conversation with it, and when I continue the conversation, it keeps the context of the conversation we just had. It's all about becoming niche so that the customer feels like it's proper KYC. Not banking KYC, but really knowing your customer and having the insights about your customer. Leverage APIs to do partnerships. Be data informed, because data is the new oil. Now, ladies and gentlemen, drum roll. I would like to introduce you to somebody. Meet the multi-armed bandit algorithm. I love this algorithm. The multi-armed bandit algorithm is a type of reinforcement learning algorithm that is used to balance exploration and exploitation, right? So it explores, then it exploits. It explores, then it exploits. I'll give you an example. In the UAE, there is a telecom company that I shall not name, but I got service with them like many years ago, and they offered video service. And I, by accident, chose that I want horror movies to watch them as well. And then for the next few years, I never watched a horror movie, but they kept serving me horror movies as part of my experience because they never exploited what I was really doing. Now, the multi-armed bandit addresses that. What it does is it literally watches what are you doing, what do you want, and it serves you more of what you want and less of what you don't want. Hey guys, that's what Instagram does. That's what Netflix does. That's what they use. In fact, don't just hire bankers, don't just be bankers, be tech people who understand these kinds of things so that you can make a difference. On that note, I'd like to introduce you to Mr. Ashok Chandra Shekhar from India. Young Ashok graduated from the RV College of Engineering and the Dartmouth College, went to Hawaii, Microsoft for a few months, then he joined Netflix and he had his big break. He used the multi-arm bandit algorithm at Netflix and completely rethought and redid how Netflix serves content, and customers love it. He did so well, he left, he's now with Warner Brothers doing the same thing there. In fact, he didn't do it by himself. He had these guys working with him. Out of all of them, only Justin is still left at Netflix. The rest of them have left. Some have gone to Spotify. Why? Because they have leveraged the multi-arm bandit. What it does is it serves you content. Did you know that Netflix actually says when it serves content, as I close here, Good Will Hunting is a movie, right? Now, if you like love stories, what Netflix does is they show you a graphic image of Good Will Hunting with two people about to kiss. If you like comedy, they show it to you with Robin Williams. If you like techie guys, they show you a different image. But they actually found that it makes a difference to use the multi-arm bandit as a recommendation engine into your customer's experience and how your customers choose. And they saw that people who like certain things will choose more based on not just the genre, but also the imagery that's used, and that's based on the multi-arm bandit algorithm. Think about this. How can you leverage this kind of thinking in banking? Now, we're talking about banking, right? We're talking about financial services. How do you make an experience personalized using algorithms like the multi-arm bandit, for example, so your customers really understand that you understand them? Let's learn from the work of others. As I close, digital banks fail because of poor user experiences, because of insufficient funding, because of limited customer acquisition. Regulatory hurdles are reasons why digital banks fail. Security and privacy concerns, those are things that you just have to get right. Technology challenges, just making sure that tech really does work. Lack of scalability, being able to scale. And this is where cloud is so interesting, right? As demand grows, you scale and you increase your provisioning. Integration challenges, lack of differentiation, and we'll talk about more of these tomorrow. But you don't have to be the first to succeed. You can follow up and be successful learning from what other people have done. There are three types of people. People who make things happen, people who watch things happen, and people who wonder what just happened. Be one of those who make things happen. Leveraging data, lean processes, understanding customers, and really providing a niche customer experience so that the digital bank feels personal to every single one of your customers. Thank you for your time.